KVNU.
The information from the Pretty Balanced perspective.
Online at kvnutalk.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Whole Tree Care. At their regularly scheduled meeting this evening, the members of the Cache County Council will consider a slate of local road projects recommended for funding by the Cache County Council of Governments, or COG. County Executive David Zook said Cache County is growing and that it's vital that infrastructure is funded to keep up with that growth. Zook is a voting member of the COG, along with all 19 mayors of incorporated municipalities in Cache County. The members of COG met on October 24th to approve a slate of 10 road projects to be recommended for funding to the Cache County Council. They include in Nibley, go-ahead phase of 3 and 4 extension of 1200 West. In North Logan, extension of 200 East from 1360 North to 1800 North is recommended. In the unincorporated area of Cache County, COG members recommended allocating $511,000 to widening and safety improvements to 11,000 North. You can see the complete list at CacheValleyDaily.com. KVNU News Time is 5:06. KVNU weather mostly cloudy this evening, then partly cloudy. Overnight low in the mid-20s. Rain likely on Wednesday. Chance of snow in the morning, then rain showers and a slight chance of thunderstorms in the afternoon. Little or no accumulation. High temperature in the mid-40s. 30% chance of snow Wednesday evening, and then partly cloudy Thursday, then clearing. High temperature in the low 40s. It's been to 50. Right now we have 47 degrees at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. Get yourself prepared for winter with help from your 5 locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores. Get antifreeze, fuel stabilizer, ice melt, Rain-X, and Trico wiper blades at your 5 locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts.
Men fall cleanup is here, and it means one thing.
Football!
Okay, it means 2 things.
Hunting!
No.
Yeah, I don't hunt. Hang Christmas lights?
Nope.
Rake the leaves?
No. Call Whole Tree Care.
Yeah, but why?
Fall is the best time to have your trees and shrubs trimmed and hazards removed. Every winter, homes and vehicles are damaged by heavy snow and overgrown trees. Call 760-6587 and ask about the radio discount. Whole Tree Care, that's Hull Tree Care, 760-6587.
KVNU News Time is 5:07. It's a chance to support students at Bridgerland Technical College, and it happens this Wednesday and Thursday evenings at 7:30 p.m. It's the annual BTech Fashion, Merchandising, and Development Students Fall Fashion Show on KVNU's For the People program on Monday. Department Head Haley Ropalato told us how they put this together each year.
We have been doing these fashion shows for about 30 years, if you could believe it.
That's so cool.
And, yeah, it's pretty insane. We do 2 shows, one in the spring and one in the fall. And we have built these shows into the curriculum that we teach our students. Part of fashion merchandising in development actually includes event planning. So the curriculum gives them the opportunity to create and work on a full-scale production.
She said the students get to do the advertising, the choreography, the music, and all the other elements of the show.
Part of that being styling the looks with local retailers who are so generous to work with us, and we have a great relationship with them. We love to showcase their products. And we also have awesome students that actually fully design and construct 2 sets that we will be showing in the show as well.
Ropalato said the theme for this show is Wonderland, a play on Alice in Wonderland. They've created a whole Wonderland world within the room, from the refreshments to the backdrop to the lighting and staging. Tickets are $8 and available at the door. The main campus is at 1301 North, 600 West in Logan. You can visit btech.edu for more information. And the Weber County Sheriff's Office investigating after more than a dozen gunshots rang out in a Hooper neighborhood early Sunday morning. Deputies said it happened around 2:45 a.m., and when they got to the area, people were seen fleeing the area. Some people were detained, according to deputies. Lieutenant Colby Ryan with the Weber County Sheriff's Office told KUTV that the people were very uncooperative with investigators. They wouldn't give any information and would not provide witness statements. Neighbors who heard the gunshots described the incident as terrifying. According to deputies, there were no injuries reported and no property damage. KVNU News Time is 5:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
As our world changes, we'll keep you up to date. News Talk KVNU, 102 FM, 610 AM. Also on the new KVNU mobile app.
Hi, this is Bob Larson with LSS Insurance. Exciting news. Humana is now offering Medicare Advantage plans in our area for 2023. Come see us to learn more or go to our website lssins.com for a meeting schedule. Get the most out of Medicare. The seminar is free. Call 752-9493 for details. For accommodations of persons with special needs at meetings, call 752-9493. That's 752-9493.
With the arrival of fall, potential heavy rainstorms, fallen leaves, and debris, the Cache Stormwater Coalition would like to remind you of a few things to be mindful of. Clean out all the leaves and debris from your rain gutters. Use a broom or rake to remove leaves and debris from the top of storm drains, as clogged storm drains can lead to flooding. Don't keep piles of yard waste in your yard, on the sidewalk, or street. Use a green waste recycle bin, and check with your local city office on where to place collected leaves for pickup. And when it snows, remember to keep the snow away from curb and gutter and storm drains. We can all make a difference if we do our part. Brought to you by the Cache Stormwater Coalition.
Feels like Tuesday. Tuesday has no feel.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Hour 2 of today's show, Tuesday, October 25th. I'm Jason Williams, Bill Walter here in the studio as well. And we are kicking off this hour with a very special guest here in the studio. It's an honor to invite this guest in because this is currently second only to, out of respect to our first hour conversation, probably second only to the employees of the Bear River Health Department and State Health Department, one of the busiest people in the state right now. Well, maybe we should say second to county clerks as well. We have with us State Director of Elections for the state of Utah, Ryan Cowley. And Ryan, I really appreciate making the time for us today. It's always been fascinating to me. Let me put it this way. The number of things that could go wrong. You know, when you just think about that, the number of things that could go wrong in an election cycle and don't, that alone is amazing. From technology breakdowns to miscommunication to, something in the process gets backed up and you have people angry that there aren't results on election night. I mean, there are so many things that can go wrong, and we have a track record of those things not happening, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, you bring up some great points with elections. And first of all, it's great to be here. I'm from Cache Valley, and so it's kind of nice to come home and be in the valley and whatnot. But, yeah, you're right. There are a lot of moving pieces with elections, and you don't get a second chance. You have to get it right the first time you do it. And there are a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things going on, technology. We're always trying to improve the processes. And so it really is, I think, a testament to the people who run these elections, which are your county clerks and people from your community. I was just out at the Cache Valley Ballot Processing Center, and they've got some volunteers from around the valley that are there helping count the ballots, make sure everything's right. And that's part of the beauty of it. You have so many moving pieces, people in your community, and it all works out in the end.
Let me also be the first, if someone hasn't already, to issue a formal apology from Cache Valley for our county clerk, Jess Bradfield. He's a troublemaker. No, he's a great guy. He's a good friend of the show, but he stepped into this role, very quickly in the midst of the last cycle, the municipal elections, and got up to speed so fast, and then it has been kind of running a very tight ship since, and the state oftentimes is throwing the legislature is oftentimes throwing new things at county clerks so that they have to figure out how to implement, and that happens from time to time and did recently. But for the most part, the system as designed has been kind of the same for about 10 years now.
Yeah, 2013 is when vote by mail really started to come into play. With Duchesne County did in 2012, Weber County 2013, Davis County 2014, and then we got the new voting equipment that we use in 2018, and then it's just been continually improving upon those processes. With that equipment.
This is. So when your office meets, so you've been kind of touring the state, meeting with county clerks as is tradition in an election cycle. Do you pick up things? Is there a lot of variability, enough variability that you go to a county clerk's office, see their process, and think, oh, that's something we should adopt statewide? Or is it pretty consistent across the board?
So it does vary quite a bit. We have 29 different county clerks, and one of the strengths of the system that really gives it a lot of, builds in the security and things like that, is we do have those independently elected clerks who answer to their voters.
Sure.
And the state law is about 600 pages thick for election law, so there's a lot of pages there. But within that, those clerks can adapt and do things the way that fits their voters. When you have a Daggett County with 700 voters, a Cache County with 65,000 voters, a Salt Lake County, there's a big difference between those, and so there is a lot of variability. But the strength is those clerks are from those communities. They understand the people who they serve, and they can adapt those processes to meet the needs of the people in those communities. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's so convenient now. I have a horrible memory, and I'm notorious for saying I won't put things off to the last minute and then doing exactly that. So I made a habit this time, first time ever. I made a habit. I hope it becomes a habit. It came in the mail. I dotted it out. I put it in the security envelope, signed it, and the next day dropped it at the drop box at the Cache County building here, and it was done. And it felt so good to have it done. It is so easy. I mean, I'm old enough to remember going and waiting in line on election day or in early voting when we started doing that to actually tap the screen. And you kind of felt some pressure to hurry because there's a million people waiting behind you. This vote by mail, you can be casual about filling the ballot out. You can think things through. And if there's, you see something you weren't prepared for, you can Google the candidates really quick. But it's super easy. You don't even have to drive into a drop box if you don't want to. What do you hear from your office, from county clerks especially, about things that might make their lives easier? Can we streamline the process even more?
Yeah, we're always looking for ways to streamline it. We're introducing new things. For example, this year, one of the cool new things that we've introduced in Utah is you can actually receive text messages, emails, or even a voicemail of when your ballot was mailed. I mean, obviously that happened this last week, but when the ballot's received back at the clerk's office, and then if it's counted or if maybe you forgot to sign it, it will also send you those notifications as well. And you can sign up for that at vote.utah.gov. But we're continually making the process better. There's always legislation that changes things, but even inward, we look at new improvements that we can make. For example, this last legislative session, we kind of looked at things and said, one area that we could strengthen our elections is in the voter registration process. We do these voter registrations, but there was really no audit in place to check that. And so we worked with the legislature. We crafted a bill that requires us in the lieutenant governor's office that now we take a sampling of all the registrations across the state and we make sure that those people are living people. We're able to verify that against driver's license. We're able to verify that where they're plotted is correctly, and that's important so that they get the right ballot style. We make sure that there's a signature on file, and that way we can kind of see if there are problems and things like that. We're trying to find ways that we can improve this. If there are issues, we want to know about those and fix them, and so we're continually improving the process.
That would be, I know this is, something the elections office doesn't get to decide and county clerks don't get to decide, but personally I'd like to see the legislature embrace kind of an automatic voter registration system. Until they do, that will require constant management, right? This is, people don't understand, and maybe you can walk us through the process on this, that if you registered and voted a few times right out of high school or something like that, and then you just kind of dropped out of the whole thing for 10, 15 years. You are probably not still on a registration roll at that point, right? And many people don't understand that that's something maybe to check each year or each cycle.
Yeah, so there's a great transparency in whether you're registered to vote or if you want to check your address, you can do that at vote.utah.gov at any time. And Utah really kind of does a form of automatic voter registration. These terms have a lot of different meanings, but in Utah, if you go and get a driver's license or if you update the address in your driver's license, that information is automatically shared with your county clerk unless you opt out. So it presents that, and that's one of the biggest ways we keep our voter rolls clean. Sometimes there's some criticism of that. Only people who want to register to vote should be, but that's really one of the big tools that we have to keep that, because about a fifth of the people, your driver's license expires every 5 years. We're able to update those. Anytime you move, we're able to get those registrations. And so keeping up with that is a big thing. But yeah, if you miss 2 general federal elections in a row, then we'll make you inactive. We won't send you a ballot anymore, but we will send you a postcard that just says, hey, we haven't heard from you in a little while. We think you may have moved. And if you return that card, that'll keep you active. If you move to a different place, you can sign that and return it, and then we'll be able to update your registration. So there's a lot of different things that we can do to keep those addresses up to date and keep people, even though it's not necessarily automatic registration, it is pretty easy to register.
That's pretty close to do. And you mentioned vote.utah.gov. That process is very simple too, registering, but also checking your registration. What we run into or hear a lot of here on the show, people who moved and then, your voter registration kind of slips your mind. And then suddenly the election cycle's on you and you don't get a ballot and then people just, whatever. And that's unfortunate because they probably cast a vote if the ballot came. It's really easy to do. I think it took me 3 minutes to recently change my registration. That was it. It was about 3 minutes of typing, if even that. And Utah we get recognition for this, right? In fact, I don't remember which states, but there are a couple of states that after the surprise of 2020 and trying to figure out a way to allow people to vote while there was a pandemic going on, a lot of states are looking at Utah saying, can we adopt that here? Can we take this exact same election model that Utah's been using for almost a decade now and make it happen here? Do you feel pressure at that point when other states are looking at your elections office and saying that's the model to use?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we feel pressure.
Or is it just pride?
It is a little bit of pride, but you're also able to talk with other people. I go to national conferences and things like that, talk with people from other states. New Jersey is a state that reached out quite a bit to us during the pandemic and, just trying to figure out, they were thrust into this. They basically had 2 or 3 months to try to figure out how to go to vote by mail. They don't know anything about it because vote by mail is not a big thing.
Meanwhile, we're sitting here like, I've been doing it for
it's like,
years.
Yeah, you've got it. And here's a few things that you can do. And it's nice to share those tips. But in talking with them, we also hear things that they do. And I'm one of those people that just likes to learn from other people. And it's like, okay, here's some information we can share. But now we have things that we can improve our processes with or do a little bit differently, or information. Maybe it's how they recruit poll workers or different things like that really benefit us. And so that collaboration, was helpful for them, but it's mutually beneficial.
Something new, the legislature passed a bill recently that added a step to this that involves, it's one of the reasons that the county clerk here in Cache Valley had to move operations out to the airport, to a larger facility. Can you talk a little bit about that? Has that been a challenge? Has it improved things? Are you hearing, is it settling nerves in the public where nerves weren't settled? This ability for people to observe in a different way?
Yeah, and one thing that may be a little bit of a misnomer with that is we've always allowed poll watchers in Utah.
Sure.
And all the law did is clarify that a poll watcher can be within 6 feet. So the furthest back they can be from any process is 6 feet. So it really, honestly, didn't really change much. I've been doing elections since 2005. Granted, we've had more poll watchers since 2020 than we ever did before. And with vote by mail, you just want to be able to have space. That's the biggest thing. You want to have room to spread out, process ballots and things like that. So I don't know that the law change really did much, but I think there's more people interested in the process, which to me is always valuable. Elections, sometimes everybody's like, ooh, everything's so secret. It's not. It's like the worst kept secret in the world. We invite you to a public test about a month before the election, before ballots go out, where we test all of the equipment and every ballot style to make sure that it's calibrated correctly, that there's no foreign software on those machines, that everything's in working order. We invite you to come be a poll watcher. If you have questions about what they're doing, come watch. They actually post the hours on each of the county clerks' websites of when they'll be processing ballots. You can go out to the airport. It's kind of affectionately known as the snake pit because there's some snakes and things like that they've had out there.
Literally. Like actual snakes have crawled into the facility.
They have. But you can just show up out there and they'll sign you in as a poll watcher and you can go walk around. You can see exactly what they're doing. Sometimes if it's a little bit slower, they'll take a little bit more time and walk you through the process. And then after the election, they also publicly notice an audit where they go through and they'll go in and verify 1% of all of the ballots that are selected at random. And they'll make sure that these machines were counting them correctly, that all of the processes were done. They also do a 1% sample of the signatures that were evaluated on the envelopes to make sure that the right ballots were counted, and if there's ones that shouldn't have, that they were properly challenged. So it's an incredibly transparent process. And the bill just kind of codified what those rules are, because before, if somebody got within 2 feet, there wasn't necessarily a law that would prohibit that or anything like that. And so now it's like, okay, 6 feet's the standard. And there's also some requirements in that requires it to be projected up on a screen so that you can see things a little bit better, so that everybody can have that transparency. And to me, that's highly important in this process.
I'm thinking, I decided against it because I didn't want to take up more of the clerk's time when so many were already probably asking. But I am tempted to go out. I just want to see the machines. It's a fascinating process to me, and that a lot of this can be mechanized, can be automated, to the extent that, because we're talking hundreds of thousands of ballots, and it's something that must be done very quickly. On the other side, we've got a quick break to get to here, but on the other side, one of my favorite parts of elections is that somehow, despite delays at times or close races at times, we usually have results in most races that evening. So on the other side, maybe we can talk a little bit about how that's possible, which, again, I love and would hate to see go away, although we'd all live if it did. Ryan Cowley, Director of Elections here for the state of Utah, is in Cache Valley today, has been visiting with our Cache County Clerk, Jess Bradfield, and will be moving on to other counties throughout the state as the election continues to play out. Just kind of keep an eye on things, coordinating things, and more. It's an intricate process that Utah has refined to a near art, to the extent that other states are looking at us and saying, how can we do that? So if you have questions, 753-5868. We'll be back right after this.
The annual Cache Business Women's Conference is Tuesday, November 1st at the Riverwoods Conference Center. This year's event is sponsored by Nucor Steel Utah and is titled Lead Where You Stand. You'll experience a day full of learning, networking, fantastic food, and vendors. This year, the Chamber is excited to announce Nubia Pena, Melissa Seavey, and Shalon Keller as keynote speakers. Tailored for women professionals and entrepreneurs, the Cache Business Women's Conference is November 1st. Register now at cashchamber.com.
This is Jay Allen with Allen Mortuaries. From our family to yours, thank you for voting Allen Mortuaries Best Funeral Home of Northern Utah and Best Funeral Home of Cache Valley. We sincerely appreciate the confidence and trust your family has given us over the past 83 years. When you trust us with the final preparations of your loved one, you get the kind of caring, personalized service you can only expect from a family-owned funeral home. It's our family serving yours. Voted Best Funeral Home of Cache Valley in Northern Utah, Allen Mortuaries. Then, now, always.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Our guest here in the studio again, Director of Elections for the state of Utah, Ryan Cowley. If you'd like to know more about what the Elections Office does, they are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Just look up for Elections Utah. It's their handle on Twitter, for example. You can also visit the elections website, and vote.utah.gov is your one-stop shopping, literally, site for everything. You have up until October 28th to actually complete or change a registration, but It's the 25th. So get on that. Also, if you thought you were registered, expected a ballot, but didn't get one, if anything out of the ordinary happened and it's going to cause you to not send your ballot back in or drop it off at a drop box, contact the clerk's office because they can sort almost anything out. Including, I was laughing about this. There's a morning show I like out of Salt Lake City. You probably know them, Bill, Carrie, and Gina. Bill on that show this week was talking about the fact that in Salt Lake County they use security sleeves on their ballots, which you put it in the sleeve, then in the mail back envelope with the signature on it. And he forgot the security sleeve, and he wasn't sure if that would matter or not, so he didn't mail it. He still had it sealed. He didn't mail it. He was going to go check with the clerk's office. That's the type of thing that's an election cycle, right? Questions like that. And that's the job that your office has done at getting information out on that, including the lieutenant governor as well, Deidre Henderson, has been amazing this year. Obviously, the big concern, because there's a bit of a political football nature to it, but election security is a big thing. And you've also been trying to get word out on that to reassure those who are concerned about that. Walk us through election security if you can, because it's pretty tight in Utah. We don't have there are very few stories over the last 10 years of anyone successfully cheating. In fact, none, right? There have been cases where someone tried, but they were caught.
Yeah, by and large, there's a report out that KSL did, and I believe they had identified like 17 different cases of fraud over the last 10 years. And really what we see is kind of the onesie, twosie kind of a thing, where somebody signed somebody else's ballot or things like that. There were several people who were prosecuted, mostly in signature petitions. So in 2018, there was, I think, 5 statewide initiatives going around. And in Weber County, where I was at the time, there were 2 individuals that were convicted of 9 felonies each and 9 misdemeanors. Yeah. And it's the same process that we use to catch that and identify that in those petitions that we use to verify the ballot. So fraud is very, very small in Utah. We have a lot of, when you look at election security, it's layer upon layer upon layer. There's not one silver bullet that just cures everything. It's a lot of different filters, a lot of different layers that in the end make it very secure. And that's something we're always looking at, we're always improving on. It's really important, I think, for people to understand that election systems are designated by the Homeland Security Department as a critical infrastructure. So we have really the same priority as we do for the power grid, for the water grid, and things like that, because this is important. This is the heartbeat of our democracy. We live in a republic where we elect people to represent us and make laws, and we need to make sure that the people who are being elected really do represent the people and are the people who are elected by them. And so this equipment is never connected to the internet. So if somebody wants to hack it, they've got to physically be in there, and there's cameras and locks and all sorts of security. And we could spend hours. I kind of nerd out on this kind of stuff.
Going to attract some attention when you're trying to plug that flash drive in, right? Someone's going to see you.
Well, and a lot of these systems will actually reject different types of flash drives. It's got to be a proprietary flash drive for that system, or it will reject it. I mean, there's so many layers of security in there that people just don't think about. You think you're getting the ballot in the mail and sending it back in, but behind this is a whole process and an infrastructure to make sure really that every Utahn has the right to vote and that they only get to vote once. And so we want these elections to be accessible. We want it to be easy to vote, but we also want it to be very hard to cheat, and we want to be able to detect that and prevent it from happening.
I think that's what amazes me about the process here in Utah is that as we started out talking here about how easy it is to vote in Utah, now wrapping up on how secure it is, and the two oftentimes, in information technology, for example, the more secure you make a system, the harder it is to access. The opposite with elections in Utah. It's become easier to access, easier to vote. At the same time, it's become, a system that is looked at by other states for its success when it comes to security, when it comes to process. And maybe last item here for you, Ryan, because this process amazes me. One part of this all that can never fully be automated or even partially automated is what's referred to as adjudicated ballots, where a signature doesn't match or there's something else that causes a ballot. But instead of that just being tossed in the trash, clerks throughout the state and your office as well you do your absolute best, beyond due diligence, I think, to try and contact those voters and say, there was a problem. Would you like to come and correct this? That literally requires hands-on, people on phones. That amazes me that happens. I don't think anyone would complain if the clerk's office just tossed the ballot. You know, if you can't sign your name right, it goes out.
Unless that's your ballot. And
unless it's your ballot.
Obviously, then you're not going to be happy.
Really glad they call to check, right? That amazes me.
Yeah, and the level of details is astounding. These clerks care, and they care a lot. They do spend a lot of time making sure that each and every ballot does have that opportunity to be counted. And if we're going to go through and verify the signatures, which is our form of voter ID, you know, it's critical that matches. And so if we say that doesn't match, we don't want that to exclude somebody from participating. We're going to give them the opportunity to sign an affidavit. They have to put their driver's license or social security number on there and then send that back in with a signature that matches their record. We still want to verify that, but we want to give that person the opportunity to be able to have their vote cast, because that's really the heartbeat of where our country lives and the world we live in and the freedoms we enjoy.
That part is just so fascinating to me because, again, if the clerk's office has decided as a general rule, if the state elections office decided, you know, if you don't sign your name right, you sign it differently than it's on your driver's license, things like that, your ballot just doesn't count. Them's the breaks. But to have this entire process where they one by one try to reach out to these voters and say, hey, can you come in? There was a problem. That to me just, I don't know, big thumbs up. That's still a part of the process here in Utah. And Ryan Cowley, I really appreciate taking the time for this. It's fascinating to see behind the scenes of all of this. And as Ryan mentioned, there are still opportunities to, if you want to go out and see how all this works, there are still opportunities to be a poll watcher here in Utah, and you can find information about that on the clerk's website, although the window is shrinking, so I can't guarantee you'll get in. It's still listed as an opportunity if you want to try. A lot of people already signed up for that, but several days left here before Election Day. Again, voter registration deadline is October 28th. That's for online registration, right?
That's for any registration. It has to be online or in the clerk's office by 5 p.m. Now, if you don't meet that deadline, Utah does allow same-day registration. You'll go and you'll cast a provisional ballot. You'll need to take ID as well as proof of residency, but you can do that up through Election Day and be able to cast that ballot in person.
Very nice. And, of course, ballots must be postmarked by Monday, November 7th, if it is not in the mail. And I mean before the post office closes on Monday the 7th. Do not mail it. Drop it in a drop box or take it to the clerk's office in person on Election Day. And that's pretty much everything you need to know about elections, how they work, how to make sure you're a part of it, which is important. And appreciate your time. Ryan Cowley, Director of Elections for the state of Utah. A pleasure to have you here in the studio.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, a pleasure to have you tuning in. Please stay tuned. More of For the People right after this look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:37, and the news is brought to you by U&I Furniture. A 54-year-old Nibley man has pleaded guilty to sexting with an underage child, possessing several forged documents, and downloading child pornography. Freddie Argueta has been in the Cache County Jail since being arrested last November. Argueta appeared Monday afternoon in First District Court, accepting a plea deal with prosecutors. He pleaded guilty to 3 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor, a second-degree felony, enticing a minor, and possessing a forgery device, both third-degree felonies. As part of the plea agreement, prosecutors dropped 32 remaining charges. Logan City police officers began investigating Argueta after receiving a cyber tip indicating child sexual abuse material had been distributed on social media. Numerous chats were later obtained containing sexually explicit conversations with minors. Officers traced an internet IP address to a physical address where a search warrant was executed, and Argueta was taken into custody. Inside the residence, police located a tablet logged into the defendant's social media account and his cell phone. During an initial search of the 2 devices, multiple images or videos were located, primarily depicting the abuse of male children. Evidence was also uncovered that Argueta had engaged in sexually explicit conversations and exchanged sexually explicit material with minors. While executing the search warrant, police also located several false documents, including false Social Security cards, false permanent resident cards, a false employment authorization card, and a false driver's license, among others. During Monday's hearing, Argueta spoke through a Spanish interpreter, waiving his rights to a fair trial and pleading guilty to the charges. He was scheduled to be sentenced December 5th, when he could face up to 15 years in prison. A Utah judge ruled not to dismiss a lawsuit that sued to challenge the legislature's redistricting maps that set congressional boundaries. The suit, filed back in March, asked a judge to block the state from implementing the map the plaintiffs called an extreme partisan gerrymander. One of the 5 rulings, the judge dismissed the allegation that lawmakers overrode the Independent Redistricting Commission, which was created by a voter-approved Proposition 4 in 2018. The lawsuit was filed by the League of Women Voters in Utah and Mormon Women for Ethical Government in response to the 3rd District Court's decision to reject the Utah gerrymandering lawsuit's request for dismissal. Katie Wright, the executive director of Better Boundaries, released a statement saying that this decision means Utahns will finally and officially get their day in court in spite of exhaustive attempts to delay justice. She went on to say that the extreme and egregious gerrymandering passed by the state legislature will be on display when the court hears this case. And according to the Tax Foundation's 2023 State Business Tax Climate Index, Wyoming has the most competitive tax system in the country, while New Jersey takes last place again. While some states rank high because they forego a major tax, 3 states, Utah, Indiana, and North Carolina, round out the top 10, despite levying all major tax types, indicative of well-structured taxes across the board. The Tax Foundation's annual state index enables business leaders, policymakers, and taxpayers to gauge how their state's tax systems compare. It shows how well states structure their tax systems, breaks down tax changes from prior year, and provides a roadmap for improvement. The index shows an overall ranking as well as subcomponent rankings for corporate taxes, individual taxes, sales, property taxes, and unemployment insurance taxes. KVNU News Time is 5:42.
Recently, U&I Furniture took a call from Best Furniture, and they asked U&I to take all the display furniture from the Las Vegas Market Show. Because it's all display furniture, it's deeply discounted, and it's on sale now. Swivel, reclining, accented lift chairs, sofa loves, and sectionals. And also, U&I just got a big order they placed over a year ago from Southern Motion, all at pre-inflation prices. You can take advantage of these sale prices and lay it away at no extra charge until the holidays. Big selection, great prices. That's why there's always a better buy at U&I Furniture in downtown Logan.
KVNU weather, mostly cloudy this evening, then partly cloudy skies, low in the mid-20s, chance of rain and snow in the morning, then rain showers, a slight chance of thunderstorms, actually, in the afternoon tomorrow. Little or no accumulation, mid-40s. Chance of snow Wednesday evening, and then partly cloudy to mostly sunny skies. Cool on Thursday, high in the low 40s. It's been to 50. Right now it's 48 at KVNU. The Duct Hunter reminds you to change your furnace filter every 3 months. Your furnace will run more efficiently. To clean your ducts, call them at 770-4813. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Ready to experience a new level of local transit? Well, with the new CDTD app, it's super simple for you to plan your trip to a T. With our interactive map, you can view bus stops closest to your location with real-time arrival information. You can mark your favorite stops, get alerts, set reminders, and much more. So, whether you're a seasoned pro or it's your first ride, get moving today with the new CDTD app.
Take control of your money. Start by listening to The Dave Ramsey Show.
Gas mileage. Gas mileage is killing me. I have a $6,000 pickup truck, and I'm going to go buy a $36,000 Prius, and I'm going to save the money on gas. You're going to make $30,000 up on gas mileage. Where'd you take math? What school was that? You going to drive this stupid freaking Prius to the moon and back? There's no way you're ever going to make that money back on gas mileage.
Dave Ramsey, evenings on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
Hi, I'm E.J. Williams. Each year, millions of animals are abandoned, and more than 1 million are euthanized before they can be rescued. Organizations like American Humane are working to harness the healing power of the human-animal bond, as animals can be trained as life-saving service and therapy dogs to help veterans, the elderly, and children with special needs to overcome the obstacles of everyday life. To find out how you can help give animals and the people they help a new leash on life, please visit AmericanHumane.org.
What is dedication? My daughter is biological and my son is adopted. I love them both so much. From the morning when you wake up to putting them to bed at night and every moment in between. I think a parent's job is to protect our children but also prepare them for the world so they become good, kind human beings.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Are you blind or losing vision? Do you feel like it's controlling your life and your decisions, possibly limiting you? Well, I've been there. But through the National Federation of the Blind, I have learned that I don't have to allow blindness to define me, and you don't have to either. To learn more and find the support you need, simply visit blind.org. That's blind.org. The National Federation of the Blind. Live the life you want.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. I've linked to every website we've discussed here, by the way, on our Facebook page, but it's really easy to remember. Vote.utah.gov. You can also visit elections.utah.gov. That's when you want to bookmark for election night for those results. But it is a streamlined process. Utah is a model for the nation, and no exaggeration, many other states, as we've discussed here, with Ryan Cowley, Director of Elections here in the state of Utah, in the studio with us. Utah is a model. A lot of other states looking at us saying, okay, you've been doing this for almost a decade now, longer than that if you count some of the pilots that happened in specific counties, and it works very well. So how do we adopt this? How do we implement this within our own statute? And they're working that through the system. But Utah well ahead of the game on all of this. We obviously didn't know a pandemic was coming, right? I mean, that's not why we started the vote by mail implementation, because we had some turnout problems in Utah, which every state with a single dominant party for a long time has. You know, states that have been blue for decades, where it's a given the Democrats will win, people don't vote in as high of numbers. Utah had the same problem in the opposite direction, and vote by mail turned that around a lot. We saw elections that were coming in the teens suddenly coming in the 30-40%, which is, I mean, we'd still love to see 75-80, right? But 30-40%, we'll take it. I mentioned this at the start of the show. I don't know how many people really care about this, but it's important to me. And I think it's important to a lot of folks, especially right now, where the outcome of these races is so key. We oftentimes know the winner of the race on election night. And if you think of everything we've just discussed, Ryan, how the intricacies of this process, the steps taken for security, the fact that we could know amazes me. And yet that's usually the case, except in extremely close races, under 1% or just within that area. How does that happen? I mean, honestly, it seems impossible.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a lot of moving parts, and it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of long hours by the clerks and the volunteers that are in there. One of the criticisms that vote by mail gets is sometimes the results are a little bit delayed, right? Yeah. So on election night, we may have 75% or 80% of the votes counted. Those other 20% that are turned in late on election day, or Utah has the postmark deadline of before election day, but there's still valid ballots coming in. Sure. And those just take a little bit of time. And what I really tell people is, this isn't new. If you go back and Google news stories, you look at the congressional races, with Mia Love and things like that in the past, even Utah County that wasn't vote by mail in Salt Lake, both of those counties were adding totals right up until the canvass as they process provisional ballots, things like that. Results have never been final until 2 weeks afterward. Now, vote by mail does add
and there's a reason for that, right? That's not arbitrary.
Yeah, it's not arbitrary. And it's important. We can cut corners and we can do it fast or we can do it right. But you really can't do both. And so if we go through this whole process where we're verifying all of the signatures, ensuring that matches, that takes time to do that.
Sure.
And we want to make sure that that's done right. Now, in some of these really close races, it can be a little bit painful. I can't imagine being a candidate, when some of these races are swinging by just a few votes. I mean, that's brutal. But even if we didn't do vote by mail, those were still swinging by just a few votes, when provisional ballots were released by one county or another county. So it really hasn't changed anything in that sense. It's just a larger number that's out there. But statistically, a large number of those ballots are counted on election night and are released. And one of the questions I got this last week is, why do the county clerks call races? And I said, you will never, ever hear an election official call a race. The media will call a race if they feel like there's enough of the votes counted. They may call a race, but an election official never will. That's just not a word that's in the vocabulary because they know it's never final until the canvass. And the canvass is really that ultimate check on the election. The clerk is independently elected by the people. The canvass is the legislative body. So in Cache County here, you have a Cache County Council. They're the ones who will meet together and certify the results, and that's the check on the county clerk. And so those 2 weeks are important.
That's the opportunity for someone to say, hey, there's a huge red flag here. Something went wrong. That's an important part of the process, even if it does mean sometimes we don't know the results. But no, I honestly still amazed that you said 75-80% will be counted on by 8-9 p.m. on election night. It's amazing that can get done, considering how intricate this process is. This is a great question from a listener, Ryan, that fits him nicely here. A listener said, "What happens when a ballot is so someone you have to have it postmarked by the 7th. If it's not postmarked by the 7th, do not mail it. Take it to a drop box in person or the clerk's office in person on election day or that evening. But do not drop it in the mail after, say, 5 p.m. or 4 p.m. on Monday, November 7th, because it won't be postmarked. And if it is postmarked, say you get a ballot, comes in to a clerk's office and it's postmarked November 8th, what happens to that ballot? Is it straight in the shredder?
No, if it was postmarked before Election Day, that will still be processed
November 9th.
and counted. Yeah. So if it was postmarked on the 9th, it won't be counted. The state law says it has to be postmarked or have a postal mark. Now, this is the link that the clerks go to make sure these ballots are counted. Next time you get a piece of mail at your house, look at it. And if there's not a postmark on it, sometimes it doesn't get the postmark. There'll actually be a fluorescent barcode on there. So some of the clerks will actually have a barcode scanner that will read that fluorescent barcode because that's a postal mark. So that's another way. I mean, these clerks go to great lengths to verify these ballots are legitimate. But if it is postmarked after Election Day, unfortunately, there is nothing that the clerk can do to be able to count that.
And that is state law.
And that is state law, yes.
Not up to the clerks to decide that. For listeners out there, if you want to know more about the statute on this too, that is also available at elections.utah.gov and vote.utah.gov. You can actually see some of the laws behind this, links to that. And you've said it a few times here, Ryan. It's a very transparent process. I would even add that it's a above and beyond open process because we don't technically have to do all of these things. They're done in an abundance of caution, and it shows that the state takes this process seriously. And, of course, you're going to have gripes, right? You're going to have people that are unhappy, most likely candidates. How do you field those? If you have an angry candidate or someone that feels that, that the process was really unfair to them, there is some wiggle room to work with folks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And anytime anybody has a complaint, I've always taken that seriously, and typically we hear the most from the losing candidates, right?
Sure.
So I view the county clerks. I love athletics. I'm an Aggie fan. I'm sitting here in an Aggie vest, but I make the analogy that the county clerks are like the referee, right? They're there. They don't make the rules. they just interpret the rules. If they
Sure.
see a penalty, they throw the flag. Sometimes you love the refs. Sometimes you want to run them out of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they're just doing a job that they need to do. And so what we have to do is just step back, listen and hear people out. But we can't determine whether an election was a good election or a bad election simply based upon the outcome. We need to look at the process and was the law followed? Did they do the right thing for the right reason? The clerk, did they challenge the ballots that should have been challenged? Did they count the ones that they should have counted? But we really need to step back, I think, and just stop looking at the outcome to determine the validity of the election and look at those processes. But every candidate I've ever had in a close race, I've always invited them to come sit down. We go through, we show them everything that we've done. Some of them obviously, wish they would have won the election. Not all of them are happy, but they appreciate the time that we spend showing them the processes and what we did, and showing them that it really was a free and fair election. And unfortunately, they just didn't get as many votes as the other candidate, because somebody has to win every race.
That's how it works, right?
And somebody's going to lose every race. I mean, that's just the reality. There can only be one winner, unless it's like a vote for two in a city election where two people get elected. But that's the reality, is there's always going to be a winner and a loser. And sometimes that's our person we're cheering for, and sometimes the other person just maybe played a little bit better game and got a few more points on the scoreboard.
Sure. That's, my advice to listeners on this: don't let the political parties dictate how you feel about elections processes, because they have a reason to try and keep you angry and stirred up. The county clerk doesn't. The county clerk just has a job to do, and track record shows here in Utah the job is done very well. All of it overseen by the state elections office, working within statute crafted by the legislature, and they're signed or vetoed by the governor. It's a very intricate process that leads to a very secure process. And as Ryan has mentioned, you can get out and watch it yourself. Still some opportunities to sign up as a poll watcher here in Cache County, though I would say that window is probably closing fast. So get on that if you choose to at cachecounty.org/elections. And we'll be back with a few more minutes of our guest, Ryan Cowley, Director of Elections here for the state of Utah, in our studio today. We'll be back right after this.
This is James Stevens with White Pine Funeral Services. We are humbled by and grateful for the tremendous support we have been shown since opening our doors nearly 2 years ago. So we just want to say thank you. On behalf of everyone at White Pine, first and foremost, thank you for allowing us the honor and privilege of serving you and caring for your loved ones. Additionally, thank you for voting White Pine the best mortuary in Cache Valley in both 2021 and 2022.
White Pine Funeral Services, here when you need us most.
With rising gas prices, there's never been a better time than now to go electric. Come to Murdoch Volkswagen and see what all the hype is about when you test drive the new 2022 ID4. With a range of just under 300 miles, the ID4 has all the latest technology, including a digital dash, remote access, adaptive cruise, and blind spot monitoring. Come in and take a test drive and reserve your brand new electric ID4 today. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family. At Murdoch Volkswagen in Logan or online at murdochvw.com.
Call 866-628-3065 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 11/1/22.
Which is better, a hammer or a screwdriver? It depends if you have a nail or a screw. At Top Job Asphalt, they know that, and it's not one size fits all. With a variety of services and products, they can meet any pavement need and budget. Call 764-0451 and let their pavement experts give you a free estimate on any asphalt job. Best products, best services, guaranteed. 764-0451 or topjobasphalt.com. Choose the best. Choose Top Job Asphalt.
When deciding on a Medicare plan, don't be just another number. Expect to be known and valued at Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Think about this. When you respond to a national Medicare mailer or an 800 number, or even give your life's history to an out-of-state telemarketer, the reality is this. You will never speak to the same person twice, and they don't have your best interest at heart. At Jessup Insurance, you will never be just another number. Call Jessup Insurance at 435-213-3200 for personal Medicare help today.
Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services, let us guide you.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Just a couple of minutes left. Great conversation we're having during the break there. It gets easily lost. I blame cable news mainly in all of this, that elections are run by this big monolithic machine that you should be suspicious of. It's actually your friends and neighbors. I mean, you literally live next to the people who make this election happen, and every election happen. Just a minute left, Ryan. We touched on this already, but just as a way to wrap up, voter registration deadline October 28th, right? Online or in person?
5 p.m. Friday.
That's it. Get on it. And it's so easy to do. Vote.utah.gov. And then, of course, mail your ballots in, right? Drop them off if you don't make the postmark deadline on Monday. And Ryan Cowley, Director of Elections for the State of Utah. Honestly, a pleasure to have you here in the studio, and appreciate taking a full hour out of your day for KVNU.
Thanks again for having me.
Our pleasure. And thanks to our listeners for tuning in. Please tune in tomorrow. Cache County Executive David Zook will be here. It will be our final candidate spotlight of this election cycle, and we're going to cheat him a little bit because there was some county news today I'm going to have to ask him about, but I don't think he'll mind. He'll be with us tomorrow on the show. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.